Altogether, we have 9 directly related and then 2 others indirectly. And that's, most of them were last year, or in about a 14-month period, but I did have 3 of them that were in 2020, kind of when I learned all about this. It was weird because I'm really involved in my neighborhood. Part of when I got sober was helping other people and kind of just being involved in the community. And my neighbor directly across from me, I knew he had been struggling with different drugs and stuff, and I had went to go knock on the door because my kid was mowing the yard in the backyard, and nobody answered, and I didn't think nothing of it, so I went to the neighbor next door and said, "Hey, have you heard of Joe? What's going on with Joe?" And went inside and they found him deceased, and I didn't know anything at the time, and I come out and found out a couple weeks later, when his friend, which is his family, told us that he had fentanyl and weed in his system, and they said it seemed like the weed was laced with fentanyl, but they didn't know if it was by choice or not. And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "You mean cocaine or something?" Because back in the day I heard that all the time. And they're like, "No, it was fentanyl." And I was like, I had never heard anything like that. And that was January 2020, and then 2 months later, the guy lived right next door to him, a good friend of ours, James, overdosed on fentanyl and weed, same way. So I'm like, did he take the stuff from the neighbor's house? I don't know. But his wife blamed herself, didn't take it well, and 3 weeks after he died, she killed herself. So it was just like, all 3 of them, boom, 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 for something I didn't even know was a problem. My brothers and my mom and my stepdad at the time, they all smoked weed. I didn't judge them, that was their thing. So I started telling them, and I started telling other people. I'm like, I don't know if they knew it was in here or not. So I started telling everybody, like, y'all need to be careful, especially the young kids. I'm like, how are you gonna know what's in it, you know? Like, how do you know? Because I couldn't imagine them doing that on purpose, but I mean, I don't know. And I didn't really hear anything about that particular combination for several years until, last year. We just lost my grandmother, and my stepdad was down in West Palm with my mom, helping close up the estate and all that, and he'd come back up to our town where we live to get the house ready to bring all of the stuff that my mom wanted to keep. And he was always well known as a pothead. It was just, he smoked pot, he drank his beer, sweetest guy you ever met though. George. We used to call everything geo-rigged because he would rig everything up his way. But he was up here, and he went with what we thought were friends, and to hang out and play poker, because he loved playing poker. And this supposed friend rolled a joint for him to smoke, and from my understanding, from what the police said, was that it was so potent, there was so much fentanyl in it that it couldn't even properly digest. So it's like he inhaled it, and then the second one he was dead. So no one else in that group of supposed friends smoked that joint, just my stepdad. It was handed to him by the witnesses, and he was dead, I guess instantly, but probably not instantly, because they tried to cover it up by putting him in the backseat of his own vehicle and then driving him to his house and leaving him in the back seat. And they like put his wallet on the floor of the back seat. They opened his wallet up so you could see his name, and they put some Narcan on the seat, and then you could see where they administered Narcan well after he was deceased. So that particular time, I know it was unknowingly. Like that part I know with my stepdad. That was not a choice. There's a lot of other things going on with these people. The person who actually laced his joint has had 3 people die of fentanyl and weed overdoses in his home within 3 months. 3 months. I had to go up the chain because it was through Newport Richey Police, which is a very small department. It's not our sheriff's office, it's a very small department, and they just, every single one of them, they just wrote him off. Oh, it's just another addict, just another addict. And I told him, I said, my stepdad wasn't another addict. He doesn't have a record. He doesn't, he went to work every day. I said, he's not another addict. I tried telling them, I would beg them to listen. So I actually went out and started getting video footage of, because they try to say, oh, he overdosed. He came from inside his own home because he was in his boxers, like he was sleeping. He came from his own home and went to get something out of the car and must have passed away in the car. I said, no. First of all, he was Greek. He was not going to walk around barefoot outside, for one. I said, no. They wouldn't look into anything. They didn't question anyone. So I said, my stepdad wasn't even here in town 8 hours before this happened. That doesn't seem strange to you? So I went and got video footage and went door to door to all of his neighbors, and I was able to get video footage of him being drove to his home, and then that person propping him up in the seat, opening this stuff and putting it all there. My understanding is maybe because he was the third one there, maybe they didn't want more heat on that home, but I brought all the evidence to the police, and they said, well, at worst, it's just tampering with a body or something, some ridiculousness. I said, no, I opened his phone, and I showed that guy was threatening my stepdad just a week prior because he owed my stepdad money. I'm like, he's threatening to kill him here. I'm like, so I'm not even sure why he was there, at the home to begin with, besides his other friends were there. So the cops we don't have the manpower. We're going to look into it. Just kind of pushed me off. And they said, well, just wait for the toxicology, because by the way, there was a joint sitting next to him. That was a whole other thing. So that's why originally they're like, well, it was obviously laced. So we had to wait for the toxicology to come back. And it took a few months. And when it came back, at that point, my mom was back in their home together. And the part I missed was that this guy was renting a room in my stepdad's house. And that was kind of where the whole fight had come in, was the guy was supposed to move out, and he owed my stepdad money, but they all had other mutual friends. It was just convoluted. But anyway, so my mom comes back, not thinking that there was no way the roommate could have done that, Toxicology comes back, and I said, Mom, I told you, because 2 other people died from fentanyl and weed at that same person's house, the roommate's best friend's house, where they all hung out at. I said, I told you. And I said, don't go and confront him. Let the cops do it, Mom. And she's like, they're not going to do anything. I said, well, we've already been speaking with the Federal Bureau. We had already spoke with an officer that said that he's definitely looking into it. This doesn't make sense. He found out that the guy where everyone's passing away at is a retired New Jersey detective. And the Federal Bureau guy said that it must be because he's a retired detective. They're kind of just, I don't know. It's not right, but maybe that's what it is. So I'm like, Mom, just be patient. Be patient, don't confront anyone. But my mom is very stubborn. And about 4 days after we got the toxicology, she couldn't hold it in anymore. And she confronted that guy with the toxicology, saying, I knew you did this, I knew you killed him. And 3 hours later, my mom was shot and killed by the same person. Now, all this happened to this guy. Keep in mind, in the beginning, at first, the cops were like, oh, it's another suicide, just like your stepdad, just like the other ones. They kept trying to say, oh, they're suicides, or they're accidental overdose, just a big mess. I had to once again pull all medical records, because where the shooting was at the back of my mom's head, and my mom is right-handed, but she couldn't lift her right arm, because she had surgery that didn't go well. So I had to pull all the medical records and fight them again, same police department, same thing, saying these people are known dealers, they deal in fentanyl, everyone knows it in the town. He's known dealer, they're older, I'm like, now, they're not just overdosing people on purpose or selling this drug that's killing people left and right, because my stepdad lost 3 other friends, all to fentanyl overdoses right before him, like, wake up. Wake up. And they're just, all they would do was remove the suicide off my mom's death certificate and left it as pending or unknown. They've sent me 2 other ones at this point, so everything's just getting pushed aside. But now they have moved him directly to a mental facility, like for criminally insane. They have him there safely right now, they said. So he can't hurt anyone else, but it wasn't him alone. There was a couple of them involved in the selling and dealing and moving the body. There was 3 men. You can see all 3 of them on the video, moving my stepdad's body the first time around. So it's frustrating because it's obvious that fentanyl is serious. It's killing people, and people I know that used it for the very first time ever and died instantly, and they're just taking it and they're just spreading it everywhere, and I don't even know how to say it or get through to people. Like, how do you tell a pothead, don't smoke your pot, because you don't know? They're not going to listen anyway. I don't even know.
Texas Pictures contacted the Newport Richey Police Department for comment regarding these 2 cases. The police chief replied. In part, he said, "The opioid epidemic has wreaked havoc on our country. Despite proactive law enforcement efforts throughout the United States to keep fentanyl and other opioids off our streets, this drug knows no bounds, and we grieve with Ms. Bowers and all the families that have lost loved ones in this crisis." Newport Richey police detectives canvassed the neighborhood for witnesses and/or camera surveillance footage without success. Ms. Bowers was contacted and interviewed in reference to this case. At the time, she did not provide any camera surveillance video to our case detectives. If Ms. Bowers has video footage, she is strongly encouraged to contact Detective Joe Apollo. Both sudden deaths are understandably deeply troubling for the family, and we cannot imagine how difficult this period has been for them. We will continue to work with Ms. Bowers through this difficult time. Should they have any additional questions regarding this case, they can reach out to the Newport Richey Police Department at 727-841-4550.
I think part of the problem, is with it being legalized in so many areas, and I'm not someone to say it's good, it's bad, I know there's times that you need the THC pills for certain treatments and things like that, but now with it being legalized in so many areas, it's just everywhere. Like, I can't go a day without smelling it, and then I'm worried in the back of my head, like, where'd you get that weed? Is it something you got in a store? Is it something you got off the street? So I think about that a lot, and just the friends alone that I lost last year. I just want to explain, I am blessed to be 10 years sober, but I still talk with a lot of the people from my past life. I'm always inviting them to church. I'm always letting them know that my house is a soft place to land. If you need to call me, you want to get sober, whatever you need, I'm here. So I still talk to a lot of them, and I watched a lot of them get sober and do good, and then they start smoking weed. Well, it's just weed. That's what it is. Oh, it's just weed. I'm not shooting up anymore. I'm not taking pills. I'm not smoking crack. It's just weed. And then they turn into the weed pens, which are really potent. And then they turn into, let's hang out and smoke weed. Well, I'm going to sprinkle it with something. Oh, you'll like it. It's better. 5 minutes later they're dead. It's just weed, but it's not anymore. And I'm terrified because I have young children, I have grown children, and I'm terrified of what's happening now. This fentanyl it's crazy how it's everywhere, but in weed, that's the thing that I think just goes over and over and over in my head, because when I was younger, I smoked weed. I was a teenager, I was silly, I was smoking, I was doing a lot of things, you know, and I thought the same way. It's just weed, it's a natural herb, it's not gonna hurt you. But I have, what is it? How many of these people had fentanyl in their weed? My own uncle was one of them. He died last October. He knew it was in there though, it was a choice, thinking he could handle it. He did not. He had a heart attack, and they put it down as accidental overdose, but you know, the only reason I'm even talking to you or doing this, as difficult it is, and I'm trying to be very clinical as much as I can, is because every one of those friends I lost had family too. They had children, or they had wives, or they had parents. And I know that my life, I'm still struggling to put one foot in front of the other after losing my mom and my stepdad, my best friend. So I thought maybe if I go and talk, and maybe someone will watch and realize that it's serious. You know, of course they know fentanyl's bad, it's really bad, but, you know, they might think they're going to smoke this joint or however that it is, and they think, oh, it's only a little bit, it can't hurt you, but it can. It can't just hurt you, it can kill you, and it does. It can also mess with your mind. My friend that killed himself was right after he fell off the wagon, smoking pot, laced with fentanyl. He fell off the wagon, and a little bit of note he left behind was, he said, I fell off, so why bother? So he smoked the whole thing, and he overdosed. And he was one of the nicest, happiest, funniest people I had ever met. Only person ever threw me a birthday party. He was always happy and smiling. And he was the one person I could call at 2 o'clock in the morning just to complain about something. And he's gone. I don't know how to go forward right anymore. There's so many gone. I don't have my mom to call on anymore. I don't have my stepdad to call to complain about my mom. I don't have my best friend. I just don't have anyone like that anymore. So it's very difficult to keep going forward day after day. It's put me in some dark places that thankfully I got sober and I have a good foundation in my church, or who's to say I wouldn't be with them. But I'm telling you right now, it's hard. It's hard every day. The only way I get through the days is kind of pretending it didn't happen. That they're still around, and it's not an epidemic or whatever you want to call it, because it's a real problem. And I think now I'm like so overprotected of my next rounded children, because I'm terrified that they're going to be hanging out with their friends and want to go smoke weed or do something silly, and I might never see them again. So I'm so overprotected. My kids are like, Mom, you don't let me go anywhere. And I told them I'm scared. I'm scared to let them go spend the night somewhere. I'm scared for them to go to a party, and what if there's only one adult and the kid brings weed and they don't know any better? So I just don't really know how to function yet. There is hope though. You know, keep going to church and keep, when they say keep doing what you're doing, keep sober, keep busy, So I am very busy right now. I am doing tons of outreaches at my church right now. And I am going out there on the streets, and I'm talking to people that I know are still addicts, including my family that are still addicts. I am always talking to them, letting them know there's hope. I got sober, I got clean. You know, it was hard, and I had to go off on my own for a little while. But there's a way through it. You just gotta get the support system. I respect the police. I have family that work in multiple sheriff's offices. But I've never been so disappointed in an entire city police, except for here. Because I spent countless hours getting evidence together on all the people that deceased in one home. I had all their names, their date of births, their records showing what they overdosed on. I presented it all. And, oh, thank you for doing that, we'll look into it. Nothing. And then, oh, we're sorry, there's only 2 detectives here. Okay, so pass it up. I mean, I don't know how that works, pass it on. Give it to someone else. I'm very disappointed.
Well, that's it for today. Please share this video. It's important. It can be anywhere in any weed of the street, so don't buy weed from the street. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next video.